I was asked to do a video talking about what I do in my day-to-day business, and so today that's what I'm talking about. Hi there, my name is Sue. Welcome to my channel. I was asked a while back to do a video talking about what I do in my business as a natural health practitioner. So on my profiles I tend to put just natural therapist or something like that, which attracts some criticism sometimes from people who are just kind of ignorant about how their bodies work. But I thought today I would explain what I do, because I do multiple things, and that's why I put that there. And I thought I'd talk about how I actually got here to be doing this as an occupation, and yeah, exactly what I do. So like a lot of people in the natural health industry, I got here looking for answers to my health issues. As I've said in a lot of my videos, my digestive issues and that have been around since I was a child, along with anxiety, and so I've spent a lot of my life looking for answers to those issues. And so when I was young, I think I've talked about this, I spent a lot of time in and out of doctors' offices and A&E with abdominal pain and stuff, because I had all this digestive stuff that was going on. Didn't know what was going on back then. I actually now suspect that it was gallbladder issues, but back then didn't know what it was. And I had been put on a acid reducing drug called Tagamet when I was about 23, and before we moved to Australia when I was 25, and before we moved I went and visited my grandmother. She lived in Tauranga, and she had been brought up with using herbs in rural Scotland. My grandmother lived until she was 99 3/4. And so when I told her about all the digestive issues and that I'd been having, she told me that I should be taking slippery elm, and I had no idea what that was. And I said to her, what's that? And she went and got some out the cupboard, and she made me a drink with hot milk and slippery elm powder. Slippery elm is the bark of the red elm tree. She told me that she used to put it in my father's bottle when he was a baby, and that she had been using it basically all of her life. And so she made me up this drink, and I had a taste, and I was like, ugh, I tipped it down the sink and didn't think too much more of it. So anyway, we shifted to Australia. This was in 1989. And I was still taking that acid inhibiting drug, that Tagamet, or acid lowering drug. And once we'd been in Australia for a little bit, I ran out of the drug. Now, I had asked my doctor before I left what I should do when I ran out of it, and he said, you should be fine to come off that now. You've been on it for a couple of years, and so things should be sorted out. Yeah, right. So I ran out of the drug, stopped taking it. Within a month, I was back getting abdominal pain and everything again. So I went looking for slippery elm in Townsville in North Queensland in 1990. That was a challenge, but I did find some, and I started taking it, and it helped. And so that got me interested in herbs, basically, to start with. I got interested in herbs. Herbal medicine was my first thing that I started to dive into. And it also made me step away from mainstream medicine, because I had spent, my whole life going backwards and forwards trying to resolve these things and never got any help. But herbs helped, and so that kind of got me interested. So anyway, fast forward a few years, and we're still in Australia. I was unemployed, and I went on a course type thing, and that the government was funding. And they told us to find an employer, choose an employer in town that we would like to work for, and the government was going to pay our wages for 6 months or a year, something like that. So this was when I was probably about 32, I think. And so I said, well, I'd like to work for the natural therapist down the road. She was a naturopath. Her name was Deb. She was a naturopath. She did acupuncture, herbal medicine, all that sort of thing. I didn't know anything about anything else that she did. I just knew that she did herbal medicine, and so I thought I'd like to work for her. So they approached her to see if she would like a free employee, and she was like, hell yeah. So I went and worked for Deb, and was obviously a great help to her. She was actually running 2 clinics. She had one in Brisbane and one in Kingaroy, where we were. She ran 2 rooms. She would have somebody on a table with needles in them doing acupuncture. In the other room, she'd either be doing consults for the herbal medicine, or she would be doing massage, because she did massage as well. And so after I've been working for her for a little bit, she said to me, I'm going to teach you to massage. And inside myself, I didn't say anything to her, but inside myself, I was like, no. Massage was not something I had ever considered doing. Our family didn't even at that point really hug each other or anything. I wasn't a touchy person. I didn't touch other people, apart from my children and my husband, and so I was just like, oh, but being the good little employee, I was like, oh, okay. So she taught me to massage, and I actually found that I was quite good at it, and people told me that I was good at it, and I actually didn't mind doing it. So I massaged for her, and then when I finished, when that time was up working for her, because she couldn't afford to keep me on, I went off and I did an IT diploma, and then we moved to the Gold Coast in Australia and Queensland. And so while we were living on the Gold Coast, I actually started a massage course, which took 18 months to complete. So it was not just massage, so it was massage and soft tissue therapies was the course. And soft tissue therapies is a myofascial type therapy that uses specific angles and pressures to release muscles. So I finished that course. As I said, it took 18 months, and then from that point on, I have always basically done some massage and soft tissue work. That's been my thing. So I've been massaging for almost 30 years now, and then from there, I've had other things that I've kind of studied and done bits and pieces of over the years, but the massage was always the main thing that I did. And even when I've been employed, I've done massage part-time at home or whatever, pretty much from that time. So we've shifted back to New Zealand twice. We were back here for 4 years, about 15 years ago. We went back to Australia, and then we came back again, and we've been back this time for coming up 9 years. Now, the first time we were back here, I had a full-time business in town doing massage and soft tissue therapies for the 4 years that we were here. And then when we came back this time, I opened my business back up again in the same rooms that I'd been in before. And the rent was cheap and the landlord was easy to get on with, but the place was full of mould, which is a whole other story. And that has been part of my health journey over the last 9 years since we've been back and trying to resolve that. But anyway, so I was back in those rooms for 4.5 years, and then I moved my business home it was the beginning of 2020, just before our first lockdown here in New Zealand. So when we moved back and I started my business back up in town, and I got busy pretty quickly. I mean, I'm a good massage therapist. That's why I'm still doing it 30 years later, I built up a clientele fairly quickly because I am good at what I do. I've learned that over the years, and I've been told that over the years, and so this isn't an ego thing, For a long time I was like, just a massage therapist, but I would get results with people with their injuries and things, even just using the soft tissue work that I did over those years. But when we moved back to New Zealand, as I said, and I started to get busy fairly quickly, and I realised that my wrists weren't good. I'd only been doing a bit of massage from home in Australia, off and on, the 8 years that we were back there, and I'd had a wrist injury here in New Zealand a little while before I closed up and we sold up and went back to Australia. And so that wrist injury, even though it had got better, once I started getting busy, it started to really play up again. And so I was thinking about studying something else. I was trying to decide what to do, and I was looking at different modalities fairly early in the piece. But what happened was, when we lived in where we are last time, I had a lot of people clients who had asked me if I knew Dale Speedy from Natia, or if I had heard of him. And I always used to say, I've heard of him, but I don't know who he is. And they'd say, oh, he does this thing, and it's really weird, but it works, you know, blah, blah, blah. And those four years that we were here before, I never looked into it. When I came back this time, as I said, I was looking for another modality, and somebody, I think it was the first week that I was open, said to me, oh, have you heard of Dale Speedy from Natia? And I was like, yeah, I have. I haven't thought about him for 8 years, but yeah, I've heard of him. Don't know what he does though. And then someone else mentioned him, and then someone I knew from before, an acquaintance, she came in trying to sell me something. I found out that she does contact care on horses, which is the modality I'm about to tell you about. And so I thought, I'm going to go and look and see what this guy does. So I did. So I booked treatment for myself and my husband with one of the practitioners that worked with him. And I booked into one of his foundation courses. And so the rest is history. So what I mostly do now is contact care. So it's a New Zealand modality. It's originated in Natia, which is half an hour from where we live. And the full name is ConTact CARE Flinchlock Release. And it is a modality that's not like any other. It does completely different things from pretty much everything else out there, and gets results that are quite mind-blowing sometimes. So if I back up a little bit, I do some other bits and pieces, and I've got them on my website, Reiki, a little bit of reflexology, but there's not much demand for those, I find, and I'm probably actually going to remove them from my website. The reflexology I really struggle with because of my thumbs, and they're just kind of not my main thing that I do. So I still do a little bit of massage, only for women now. I stopped massaging men about a year ago, simply due to shoulder issues, wrist issues, which are a lot better than they were, but men's bodies are just hard. They're hard work. I'm 60 years old now. I've been doing this for 30 years. So it was either stop massaging completely or keep my regular female clients and stop massaging men. So that's what I did. And you know, I probably only average about 4 massages a week, and the rest is pretty much contact care. So let me tell you about contact care. Contact care works on bone impact sites. So this is how I explain it to my clients. We all have thousands of impact to bone throughout our lives, right from when we are little, when we first start moving. And these can be anything from, you know, kicking the furniture, hitting your thumb with a hammer, banging your head on the cupboard, motor vehicle accidents. Surprise impact is the main thing. So this Dale's theory with this is that our bodies become locked in a flinch response. You know, when something hits you unexpectedly and you go into that flinch response, the impact to the bone stays in the bone, and the connective tissue around it changes to support it. And so those impact sites just gradually shift the pressure in our bodies. Now, our bodies are a self-healing organism, and our bodies have priorities, and that is to keep our major organs functioning: our brain, our heart, our liver, our kidneys, you know, and keeping our eyes level with the horizon. So when the pressure shifts in our bodies and our connective tissue changes, and our bodies want to do something as that pressure moves, our bodies will adjust to keep our eyes level with the horizon. And so that creates imbalance and pressure in different areas of our body, and that's where we will feel pain. And so what contact care does is we remove some of those impact sites. Dale's discovered a method for doing that, which is really simple, really gentle, and just works. It's to do with universal laws and all sorts of stuff. Dale is a very unusual person, thinks outside of the box with lots of things, and obviously follows his intuition lots. And he is also, he's a farmer, he's very observant. That's his superpower, is his observation skills. And he's a 6th Dan black belt in some martial art that I can never remember the name of. And so he learned through his martial arts, he kind of observed how impact affected the body. And then, I mean, his first modality that he did was Reiki, and he used to do that and teach it. Then he became a orthobionomist, which is a bit like an osteopath, but a little bit different. And he used to teach that as well. And then he got a bit disheartened with all of that, and he was looking for something different. And so back then, even, he used to work on animals, and he was trying to fix a horse's leg. It had a problem with its back leg. I think he said he was trying to pick this horse's back leg up, and it wouldn't let him. And he tried a few times, and the horse ended up pinning him up against the fence with its hip. And like, Dale's a bit over 6 foot tall, and he said the horse's hip was pushing into his shoulder, and he was pinned there. He couldn't move because the horse was leaning on him. And he said, so he's watched, and the horse, he said, did something with its head and its eyes, and he felt its hip bone go pop on his shoulder. And he said, and then the horse stood up, squared itself up, went for a big wee, and its knee was fixed. And he thought to himself, that horse just did something that released what needed to be released to sort its knee out. And so that set him off on a whole new way of looking at things and experimenting. And he came up with ConTact CARE Flinchlock Release. So when I've been doing ConTact CARE now for coming up 9 years, it must be. Is it 9 years? Yeah, about 8.5 years. And it still amazes me all the time, the results that I get with people. You know, I will, because it's not just about pain. ConTact CARE helps with emotional issues and issues with the internal organs, all sorts of things. Concussion, we work with concussions and breathing issues and migraines. I get amazing results with migraines most of the time. And so when someone asks me these days, you know, can ConTact CARE help with whatever, I really don't ever say no now, because I have learned over the years that it can really help with a lot of different things. So for example, I'm just going to show you my charts up on the wall. So Dale has created these charts over the years. There's a couple of different lots of charts, but the ones I'm going to show you are the main ones. I can't put them all up on the wall here in this place. We're in a new house and we rent, and so I've got to be mindful about what I put where. And so, but I'll show you something on these charts. So these are our main bone organ support system charts that Dale has created. Now he's pulled bits from Chinese medicine, so you'll see, if you know anything about Chinese medicine, you'll see we've got the meridians in there. And if you know anything about Chinese medicine, you'll see that we've got this chart here that shows the interconnected relationships of the different systems. Now, one example, something that I've realized over the years, this system here, this earth system. So what happened was I had a lady who came to me and she asked me, she came into this was when I was working in town. I'm just going to put my phone back on its stand. So I had a lady who came to me, this was a few years ago, and she was in my waiting room. This was when I was in town, and she asked me, she said, I'm just wondering if you might be able to help me. She goes, this is a bit of a weird situation and I don't know if you'll be able to do anything. She said, on my 60th birthday, I was having a party and I was organising my party, and she said I had a fall and I landed on my knee, and she said my knee was so sore, she said I couldn't walk on it all night, and it took a little while to get better. And she said, but the knee now is good, but she said since that happened, I have been really badly constipated. And she said, I'm sure it's connected. She said, because, you know, it happened, I was never constipated before. I had the fall onto my knee, was constipated from then on. And she said, you know, I can go for days and without going to the toilet, and it's really becoming a problem. And I said to her, well, I said, I don't know whether I can help or not. I said, but we can try. So I booked her in, and she came in and she had a treatment. Now, it ended up that it was like with all our contact care treatments, there's always multiple systems involved, but there's usually one, sometimes two main systems that we're working in for that treatment. And that treatment was the earth system, which is the stomach and spleen meridian. Now, she came and she had that one treatment, and then I didn't see her, so I didn't know what had happened to her, as often happens. And I had wondered afterwards. I thought, I wonder if that treatment actually did anything or not. Didn't know. And then, I moved my business home, and this was probably about 2 or 3 years later. I had a lady come for a treatment, and when she came in, she said to me, she said, I don't know if you remember me. She said, I came to you, I'd had a fall on my knee, and I was really badly constipated. And I said, I do remember you. And she said, well, she goes, that treatment worked. She said, I had no problems with constipation from that day on. And I said, that's amazing. And she said, yeah. She said, but I've just had a fall onto that same knee again, just recently, and I'm constipated again. So I treated her again. It was that system again, that earth system. And I said to her, let me know how you get on. And so she did, and it sorted it out again. And I thought, okay, so there's something with the way the meridian runs in that system through the knees, like in that area, that did something with her. But then I've had other people since then that have had similar things. So one of them was a family member who had knee surgery. Now, she's always had issues with constipation for a long, long time. But after having her knee surgery, it got way, way worse. And she was going weeks without going to the toilet. And she'd been back and forth to the doctors. They were giving her all sorts of laxatives and stuff, and nothing was really helping. And she said to me, she said, it's horrible. She said, I feel like there's this pressure all the time. And she said, and I can't go. So they were up here for a couple of days, and the day she was leaving, she'd been telling me about this. I said, okay, I'll give you a treatment before you leave and see if I can make any change. And so I did a treatment, and it was the earth system. She phoned a couple of weeks later, constipation issue resolved. So, things like that. I don't know how that works, but it's a pattern that I've seen that seems to be a thing. And so knee injury, earth system, constipation seems to be a thing. Go figure. There's been other patterns that I have started to recognise over the years with different things as well. And so when I get people coming in with certain things, you kind of know, okay, it's probably going to be that system. It may or may not be. I don't base my treatment on that. With contact care, when I'm working, it's just whatever comes up. I have learned to go with my intuition. I've learned to go with what I feel in my body. I've learned to go with the thoughts that come into my mind. And that's just how it works for me anyway. And so most of the time I get results for my clients. Sometimes I get amazing results just in one treatment, like I did with that lady with the constipation. And then sometimes it takes 3 or 4 treatments. Occasionally it takes more, like if people have got multiple things going on, it can take more treatments than that to resolve the things that they've got going on. It just really depends. But most of the time it's a fairly quick result. And so yeah, it amazes me. Now, another case that I often tell people about that just blew my mind and made me realise what effects concussion can have on people, especially as they age, was a lady. She was referred to me by her hairdresser. She was probably in her 70s at this stage. She had really bad sciatica, and she'd had it for about 6 months, and she was using a walking stick to walk. She was in so much pain, the poor thing. She couldn't get comfortable anywhere. She was just in a whole world of misery and pain. And so she started coming to me, it was just before Christmas, and so I had done maybe a couple of treatments on her before Christmas, and I said to her, I'm going to try and get you off that stick before Christmas. It was so hard trying to get her comfortable on the table. I have a table that sits up and that I can adjust, but it was so hard. She was in so much pain. And so Christmas came, and I closed down for Christmas, and she was booked in for that first week that I was back after Christmas. And when I went out into my waiting room, she was sitting there, and she said to me, she said, "You almost had me off my stick." And she said, "And then I had another one of my falls." And I said to her, "What do you mean another one of your falls?" And she said, "Oh, I've been having these falls." She goes, "I've been having them, I think it was for a couple of years, like this was years ago, so I can't remember the specifics." But she said, "I've been having these falls," and she goes, "and I'll be doing something, and the next thing," she goes, "I'm falling and it's too late to stop myself." And she said, "I've been hospitalised with, broken bone here and there." And she said, "And the doctor keeps, he makes me feel like an idiot. He tells me that I'm wearing the wrong shoes and stuff." And I said, "Oh," I said, "he probably thinks you got a drinking problem." And she just laughed. And I said to her, and her knee, like she had skinny little legs and she had this great big black knee. She pulled up her trousers and showed me. And I was like, it was the size of a grapefruit and it was black. And it was her right knee, I think, from memory. And I said to her, "Whoa," I said, "Okay." I said, "Come on in." I said, "I'm going to test you for concussion." So the test for concussion, one of them is to get someone to stand feet, ankles together. And you get them to close their eyes and raise their arms out in front of them. And if there's a waiver or they have trouble holding their balance, then it's very likely that they have a residual concussion there. So I stood her in the corner and I said to her, she wanted to lay on the wall. I said, "No, away from the wall." I said, "Ankles together." And so she put her ankles together and I said to her, "Now I want you to close your eyes." And when I said that to her, the look of fear on her face, I think she instinctively knew what was going to happen. I said to her, "It's okay, I'll catch you." And so she closed her eyes and I almost missed her. She fell so fast and she fell to the side that her bruised knee was on. And I just caught her. And I was like, "Whoa." I said, "Okay." I said, "I nearly missed you." I said, "I want you to do it again." So got her to stand up, ankles together, close your eyes, boom, again. She fell really fast. And I said to her, "Have all your falls been, on that side?" And she said, "Yeah, I think that they might have." I said, "Okay, we're treating you for concussion today." So I did a concussion treatment on her. And the next week when she came in, she said to me, this might sound weird. She goes, "But I feel steadier on my feet." I said, "Good, good." So I continued to treat her for her sciatica because she had messed her sciatica up with the fall. And so I think it took about another half a dozen treatments or so. It took a while to get her right. But I got her off her walking stick and got her sciatica sorted out. And she didn't have any more of those falls. She's passed away now, but she had no more of those falls. Now, if that had continued, she probably would have ended up hospitalised, broken hip or something like that. It would have taken her out sooner than she went, And so that really made me realise the effects that concussion. I mean, she didn't even know she'd had a concussion, so it had probably happened, I don't know, at some point in life. Might have even been when she was a child, but she didn't know it was there. But once I treated it, that resolved the problem. And I've had other clients with kind of weird things going on, and concussion treatments have helped with migraines. So as I said, I get pretty good success with migraines most of the time, and I treat them a little bit differently than the way that I was actually taught in the ConTact Care, and kind of come to the conclusion that migraines are often to do with eye direction and head impact, and so, or the direction of the eyes at the time of the impact to the skull, is what I mean. And so, I had a lady who came to me and she had had migraines every day since she had had a hysterectomy. And her migraines were so bad, she was seeing a specialist every 3 months. She was on all sorts of medications, including epilepsy medications, so that she could function. Now, she also had 2 frozen shoulders, so she was a bit of a mess. And when she came to me, I treated her for her migraines. And from that very first treatment for the migraines, she came back the following week and she said to me, "I've had no migraines." She said, "I've got a funny headache," but she was still on a lot of medication, obviously. "Got a funny headache," she said, "but no migraines." She goes, this is really, really weird. And I said, great. So I carried on treating her. Got her shoulders pretty much sorted. I think she still had one that was a little bit dicky in the end because I did see her after that. So anyway, that's stepping ahead. So yeah, she didn't have any more migraines in the time that she was coming to treat me. That gradually improved, shoulders improved, and then I didn't see her for probably 2 years, and then I bumped into her in the car park of the supermarket, and she said to me, I've had no more migraines. She said, I'm off all my medications. She said I had to wean off them really slowly because she was on some fairly full-on meds for that. And she said I had to wean off those, and I don't have any more migraines. She said, I've still got one shoulder that's just a little bit dicky. She said, I might have to come back sometime and get that sorted. But I've never seen her. She's never come back. And as far as I know, everything's fine. So, you know, ConTact CARE really just sometimes creates absolute mind-blowing miracles, miraculous results. And, you know, the skeptics that are out there that I know will watch this and go, well, yeah, whatever. You will never know. And if you've got something going on that is really full on and difficult to treat, you know, you actually need to give it a chance. I mean, I remember having one man who came to me, and he had so much going on, and he'd been to all sorts of people. His wife had booked him in. He didn't even want to be here. He came here, one treatment, and never came back. And I said to him, oh, this is going to take more than one treatment probably because you've got so much going on. So he obviously probably just carried on with his life and the drugs and everything, and he's probably not even around now, you know. But sometimes you've just got to persevere, and it just takes a little bit longer because it just all really depends on what's going on. And, you know, if you don't try, you don't know. So, yeah, now there's people here in New Zealand, a lot of ConTact CARE practitioners work on animals. I don't, I only work on humans. I don't have any pets or anything, so I haven't had the opportunity to really practice on animals. And I'm not comfortable with horses and cows and things like that because I've had nothing to do with them. But a lot of people work on horses and cattle and that sort of thing. Most of the ConTact CARE practitioners in the world are here in New Zealand. There are a few overseas. I think there's a couple floating around Australia. There's one I know of in the US. She was doing some, a couple in the UK. There's about 4, I think, in Switzerland. But yeah, they need to come to New Zealand for the training. So that's the thing. So this is a really, really amazing modality and really interesting in the way that it actually works. And so, yeah, so that's what I do. And I think probably fairly soon I'm going to thin my business down, my practice down to just doing ConTact CARE. And yeah, and that'll be where I kind of stay until I retire. So the other things that I do, you know, I make a bit of tallow balm and I sell that online. I have it on my website, and we have a platform here in New Zealand called Trade Me. I sell it on that as well. Hubby and I make some jewellery, so bits and pieces like this out of copper, and I make some silver stuff. So as you can see, I've got some earrings and bits and pieces here. I don't get a whole lot of time between making videos and my business. I don't get a whole lot of time for making jewellery at the moment. I would like to have more time, but you know, hubby has more time because he doesn't work. But yeah, copper, bits and pieces out of copper like this, and these are made from, you know, beach stones that he polishes up. Most of the stones that we use are stones that we found here in New Zealand, and yeah, hubby just cuts and polishes those. He's quite keen on doing that. And my tallow balm is here. And so yeah, I sell a bit of that. It's becoming quite popular. And I use doTERRA essential oils, so you can see those there. I have been using doTERRA oils now for close to 9 years as well, probably. Got some bracelets there that I make and bits and pieces. As you can see, I've got lots and lots of oils, tons of those. I used to sell cacao powder. I don't sell that anymore. I've got 2 left that I've been trying to sell. They'll probably end up being donated somewhere because of the oxalates, so I don't use that anymore. And so that's me. That's my business. My treatment room is in the little house that we're currently renting. in the last house. We were in there for 5.5 years, and I was able to paint the room and do a bit to it. This one here, I can't really do that, so I have 70s wallpaper and carpet in here, which is kind of a little bit retro, you know, and that's all good. And yeah, new curtains and stuff I put in when I moved in here, but we don't have this house long term, and so there's no point in even finding out whether I can do anything with this room. But it works, and it's serviceable, and it's got a really nice vibe, and I have my essential oils going, and I usually have music going as well, and the room's really relaxing. Today's a quiet day, so that's why I thought I'd make this video finally. If you have any comments or questions about what I do, if you want to know any more about this, pop them below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and like and share with anyone that you think might be interested in ConTact CARE, especially if you know people here in New Zealand that need help. There are ConTact CARE practitioners all over New Zealand, and it's really a modality that's worthwhile looking at. If you've got something that you're struggling with, or that someone else has been struggling with, that you can't get any help for, I would definitely suggest finding a ConTact CARE practitioner. We often get people coming to us as a last resort. They've been everywhere else. They've been through the mainstream system. They've been to osteopaths and chiropractors and everybody else and never had any results. And then somebody says, go and see this lady or go and see this man, you know, and they often finally find resolve. Not always, it's not 100%, but it's pretty close, you know. It's like, yeah, it's definitely worth trying. So yeah, so that's me. Yeah, I thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.